Hey y'all, IrixGuy here. Welcome back to another live show. And I've had major studio upgrades, and I hope this is going well. The only concern is the bandwidth. So if we get a little bit choppy, I'm going to tweak that. But I think I fixed the bandwidth issue. I fixed the lighting, and I'm going to do a studio tour. Check out my video if you haven't already. I've got just a tour of the studio. But what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about everything here. So, Copper Neil, what are your thoughts on Scotty Oh or Scotty Oh 2? And then Go1, hello, how's everybody going? How's everything going? First of all, thanks everyone for tuning in. And I'm going to start doing a lot more live shows. I've had the studio, it underwent major renovations. So now I'm working on perfecting the audio. And I think this is, well, I know this is really going to work. So the frequency of live shows is really going to amplify. This is IrixGuy's live show. I'm also going to be doing a lot of social media workshops if you're interested in that kind of stuff too. So aloha, we got SoCal Seth on here. Aloha to you too. Got a bunch of people tuning in, and I want to remind everyone, if you haven't tried the super chat, feel free to do that if you want to. It's a great way to support the channel. And we've got, let's see here. So what are my thoughts on the Scotty Oh 2? Well, I like to say it like it is, and and I don't really want to sugarcoat anything, and I never want to unfairly criticize a product, but for starters, I will say I haven't gotten my hands on the Scotty Oh 2. And that's intentional because I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but when I see it, I think crowdfunded project, I'm curious about, how easy the extra batteries, the repair parts, all of that might be to source. And I've kind of strayed away from it. Although I feel that, like I've always indicated, I feel that DJI deserves not just competition, but DJI deserves some solid competition, because if people like Scotty O would step up and really step up and start trying to compete in an aggressive way, what that should do is a few things. Number one, DJI should really cause them to really try to ramp up their production and try to innovate more rapidly. Whereas now it seems that DJI's kind of gotten, they've gotten, trying to think of the best way to put it, they've just gotten lazy. Because why innovate? Why spend the time for R&D, research and development? Why not just continue to sell what's already great? And that is the path that DJI's taken recently, because they don't have to release new stuff because they don't have a serious threat. With that said, I would like to see a company like Scotty O. There's been a lot of companies. There's been Scotty O. I don't know if it never really materialized, and maybe it did, but it wasn't the original product. There was a product called Lily, Lily camera, and that was one of, I don't know if you remember the previews for it, but it was more of a, they're throwing it in the water and it's taking off on its own, and it, the concept looked really cool, but it never materialized. And then you've got some other drones that did materialize, but they didn't really impress. I'm going to switch this. Let's say I'm going to switch the output. I'm on 1080p. I'm going to switch down to 720p here. Bear with me for just a second. I do apologize for this. Let's see. Here we go. We're gonna switch to 720p. Let's see. I'm going to stop at 720p. So hopefully this is a little bit more stable. It's weird with my bandwidth, and I don't have anything else going, but it's like I can go, if I'm doing, now I'm streaming at about 250, 90, 2163 kbps. So around here I'm comfortable, but when I get up into the 4000s, it's kind of sketchy. So yeah, we're going to stick to 720p. Sorry, we don't have 1080p here on the live stream. But yeah, we really need someone like an Apple, someone like a Google, someone like a Microsoft to step up and say, hey, we're going to really penetrate the drone space, and we're not just going to release a drone. We're going to release the kill-all drone. We're going to we're going to not just think about the product that we're about to release. We're going to give this in our minds. We're going to give it a 5 or 10 year plan. So before they release that new drone, they're going to say, okay, this is version 1.0, and this is what version 1.0 will do. But we've already planned version 2, 3, 4, etc. And obviously, as technology continues to evolve, they've left wiggle room in there for future enhancements that they probably couldn't afford. They probably couldn't foresee when they were originally mapping out the release cycle for the new drone. And that's what it's going to take for someone to dethrone DJI. They're going to have, number one, a ton of money. Number two, a quality reputation. Somebody like a Google, a Microsoft, a GoPro. GoPro failed. I doubt we'll see GoPro attempt to re-enter the drone space. But it's going to take someone with a really structured plan and someone that says, okay, this, we're not just a one-hit wonder here. We're not pumping this up on social media. We're not pumping this up on crowdfunding. We're the real deal. We're releasing this drone, and by the way, this is coming, this is coming, this is coming. Maybe they don't have to make all of the future refreshes and future drones public knowledge immediately, but at least they give the consumers a reasonable expectation that, hey, if I buy this drone, it's kind of like buying a DJI. I feel fairly confident if I buy a DJI that I'll be able to get more batteries for it, accessories, this, that, and the other, throughout the life cycle of that drone. Whereas some of these other drones, these fly-by-night drone brands, some of them may hit it big, but I haven't seen one hit it big yet. So it's kind of scary. SoCal Seth said I had a passion orange for you. If you don't know what passion orange is, it's there's this drink in Hawaii. It's just you get it in a can, and it's so good. It's called Hawaiian Sun, and you can drink that stuff, and if you want to mix it with a little booze too, it makes it really good. But I just like it straight up. I just drink it without any liquor in it and just drank it for breakfast. But it's an interesting time for drones. I mean, we're into 2020 now. Unfortunately, because of the really actually highly scary thing, the coronavirus over in China, that's inevitably going to impact a lot of technology. Drones, cameras, a lot of this tech comes from China. So I mean, we're about to see there's may not be available at all. So I mean, it's going to be tough, with the coronavirus and drones, because the coronavirus is no joke, and it's unfortunately it's all over. Well, it's actually all over the world now. So, but. Yeah, so Scotty Oh, I don't know. I mean, if I had and again, I'm not one to want a review kit, but that's one of those drones. The only way that I would try the Scotty Oh would be if I had a review kit. If somebody said, like Scotty Oh, if they reached out to me and they're like, hey, IrixGuy, we'd like you to field test the Scotty Oh 2 drone. And, I would consider that, because it did capture my attention enough to be interested in field testing it. However, it hasn't captured my attention enough to want to go out and purchase it. Number one, that's a hefty financial investment. Well, I shouldn't say investment, but that's a hefty financial purchase for something that, that 100% that I don't have the warm and fuzzies about. Maybe I'm wrong. And, maybe looking back in 5 years, maybe you're watching this previously recorded live show 5 years from now, and you're laughing at me because Scotty Oh completely displaced DJI, and Scotty Oh became the number one drone brand in the world. Maybe I'm wrong, but one thing I learned is that my gut instinct is usually right, and when it comes to drones, I don't see it happening. It's nothing against Scotty Oh, it's nothing against GoPro, it's nothing against Unique, it's nothing against, what's that other brand, Alltel, nothing against those brands, but they don't have, my perception is that they just don't have the product, and they don't have the skill set necessarily to properly execute. And that's not just executing a fancy marketing campaign. Speaking of marketing campaigns, what was that drone that had all the gorillas, and it had a really over-the-top marketing campaign, but it completely flopped. What was that? It was right It was right before GoPro Karma, and it apparently they got some sort of permission from GoPro to have some sort of GoPro integration with it. Remember that drone? I can't even remember the name of it. It was black. It was right before the GoPro Karma. They had that wicked good marketing campaign with the apes or whatever in it. It looked really cool, but it was just a complete failure. SoCal Seth says, you think DJI will ever do a gimbal for the point and shoot camera like the RX100? Actually, that's a fantastic question. So everybody out there that's not familiar with a gimbal, basically a gimbal is just it's a mechanical tool for stabilizing video. Traditionally with a gimbal, you might see GoPro now, the stabilization out of a GoPro camera without a gimbal is actually really good now. So that's software stabilized. Gimbal is mechanically stabilized. Any video footage that's mechanically stabilized is typically going to be better quality than video footage that is software stabilized. Because when you software stabilize, often what happens at a high level, you're shooting a wider area than the video itself. And what that does, that allows for it to kind of, so as the shake comes in, say for example you're filming something, the camera's shooting this wide, but the actual video is only this wide. You've got all that extra real estate for the software stabilization, which makes the video appear to be stabilized. Now the sacrifice there, when you're using software stabilization, is you're gonna experience inferior visual quality in comparison to something that's mechanically stabilized with a gimbal. So to SoCal Seth's point, he makes a really good point. It raises a very good question, rather. He said, do you think DJI will ever do a gimbal for the point-and-shoot cameras like the RX100? RX100 camera is not much larger than an iPhone. It's very pocketable. It's very powerful for both photo and video. And I really like the RX100 series. Now, I hope that they release an RX100 with a better battery, and I hope they release an RX100 that doesn't have the 5-minute or so 4K video continuous recording cap. They do that, it's going to be an awesome camera. But the gimbal, if you had a gimbal, see DJI, they came out with the Ronin, and then they came out with the Ronin S. I don't know if you remember my Ronin S videos, but the thing, even though it was more compact, it was still too big and too heavy, and I never could make it balance properly for my Sony Alpha camera, so I gave up. But I think if DJI would release a smaller and lighter gimbal geared towards cameras like the RX100, Panasonic has some cameras that are similar in size to the RX100, something that would work well, a gimbal that would mesh well with most point-and-shoot cameras, I think it could be a really good thing. Why I think we might not see that is DJI's also, their Osmo Pocket, they've gotten into the small camera with integrated gimbal, and I don't know if they want to try to, if they might feel that may potentially cannibalize their own camera sales because of the price. I mean, point and shoots aren't as expensive. Let's see. Brad says bought the RX100 Mark 7, selling the RX100 Mark 5. That's very cool, man. That Mark 7. Have you noticed what's the biggest, in your opinion, what's the biggest improvement that the 7 brought to the playing field in comparison to the 5 or some of the older RX100 cameras? By the way, I love Sony. I mean, Sony's my biggest thing. I had to settle upon a camera brand, and just because Sony, once you learned it, it was very intuitive. And, it's one of those things, like I can go out with a Sony, and without putting a lot of thought into it, I know that I'm going to capture consistently excellent video and photos without having to put a lot of thought into it. So, I just go out and focus on the action and let the camera do the work, and I can trust the camera to do the work because it's just an easy to understand interface. And, it's one of those things, you deal with cameras. I know a lot of people like Canon. Canon's big. Panasonic's big for a lot of people. Fuji. There's people that like certain cameras. And Brad said with the Mark 7 RX100, the audio jack is the biggest reason he bought it. He said he can improve his audio quality for my videos, hopefully. Yeah, the inclusion of an audio jack really brings a lot of opportunity to filming video with a point and shoot. And there's a microphone, and you can check it out on my website, by the way. Check out the Rode Video Micro. I've got a link. Let me get that link for everybody. This microphone is exceptionally powerful, but the beauty of it is that it doesn't require a power source. And this thing, I'm going to paste this in the so that's a link to the Video Micro. Brad says, book myself a 9-day trip to Thailand in May. Wait for that coronavirus. Wait for that to go out. Bring in my DJI Mavic Mini versus Mavic 2, my Osmo Action, and my RX7 as my gear. That's a great combo meal deal of gear. That is going to be a sweet trip. Thailand is awesome, man. You'll have to get some, watch out for typhoons or the tsunami. Be careful with that. But that'll be, can't wait to see your videos, man. Be sure after you return from Thailand to share some links on the IrixGuy Facebook page, and that'll be some cool stuff, man. But yeah, for a microphone, for that RX1, for your Mark 7 RX100, check out that Video Micro. It's just a really good mic without having to deal with the battery. And actually, I've been using it, and I don't know if you've seen this. I'm going to pick it up over here. So the two microphones that I use exclusively now, I had a Sony mic that I used, but I love Sony cameras, but once I've gotten into Rode, it's like I won't Rode everything. So this right here is actually Rode. I've captured some incredible audio with this. So if I'm not doing the actually, let me bring it over here. We'll put it all on the camera. So yeah, this thing looks kind of ridiculous, but this right here is my A7R4, and I've got the Video Micro on top. And what's cool is that the Video Micro comes with this fuzzy windscreen, and I've got some field test videos actually that I shot just a few days ago, where you can really hear this how well this performs in the wind. You can see it's just going into my mic in, and it fits on this will fit on a standard shoe, but what's cool about this, it also fits on I've got it on a Sony Alpha has a slightly different shoe. They call it the multi-interface shoe. This fits on that without having to use a standard shoe to Sony adapter. So that's really nice how that works. And so this is my own camera mic. If I don't want to clip on my other mic, I'm going to pull the other mic out here. Now I'm going to put this off this table because I don't trust it. So yeah, that's my own camera mic, affordable and effective. And then when I'm doing face on video segments, this right here is my other mic. This mounts on the camera, and what's great about this is USB rechargeable. It's got a little USB-C on the side of it. And then this other piece, so this one mounts on the camera like I mentioned, and then you just run the little red audio cable from it into the camera's mic in. And then on the other end, on me, I wear this. And what's cool about this, it's got the little windscreen, but I can also use a lavalier mic, and I've got the lavalier for it as well. So if I want to wire this up, and this is a Rode as well, I can wire that up, run it under the Video Talent's shirt, and hide it. But most of the time, just because the integrated mic on this is so good, unless I'm filming a professional shoot, I'll just clip this on my shirt or my jacket and get really, really good audio quality. Batteries in this thing will last pretty much all day. And you know, if you're in a situation where you're concerned about the battery getting low, since it's USB-C rechargeable, just take your battery bank with you in the field and you know, top it off if you need to. So yeah, I tell you, Sony cameras and Rode microphones, man, you can't go wrong with that combo. I mean, the quality is, you know, the most exciting thing for you, and that's understandably so. So, and both of these, you know, this and the video micro I was showing you, they feed directly into the camera. In the past, if I had a camera that didn't have a microphone in, I would record audio externally and then synchronize the audio, the pro audio that's filmed externally, with the camera's internal audio in post. And that worked really well, but it's just another post-production step. And depending upon how many videos you're filming and editing, that extra step, it creates time, which time is money. So, you know, we all know that. Brad said there's no cold or hot shoe mount on the RX100 7, so it will have to be for the studio on Big Brother. And the Big Brother, not the pocketable RX100, but the Big Brother that's not pocketable, the RX10, it's the one that has the Sony multi-interface shoe. Good catch, man. Actually, I think, and check it out, there's several handheld mounts for the RX100, not just the 7, but the older models as well, because they're pretty much the same form factor, that will accommodate a you know, a mic, so you can have a grip, put the camera on it, and then there's a thing that goes over and has a this internet, man, this hopefully I haven't been dropping. I'm 19 minutes in, but I'm watching the bandwidth, and I'm going about 2700 kbps down to 1000, and sometimes I just have intermittent flops here. Yeah, the vlogging grip. Yeah, now the vlogging grip doesn't have a shoe though, does it? It's just it's got the stop and start record, but it doesn't have a shoe on the top, does it? So that's yeah, good, really good camera. That's cool that, let's see, it says YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. Interesting. And it's funny how this bandwidth works, but yeah, this studio, man, got some major upgrades that have taken place here. He says you can get an attachment that has a shoe for it. Cool. I bought a cage, and then for the cage I got a top handle, and then I got a you know, just all these add-ons for the camera cage. And I'm like, this is cool. It was great for the studio, and then I'm like, you know, when I go out in the field, I want something that's very small and very lightweight. So I ended up just using the A7 III without the cage and everything I'd put it in. I kept that in the studio. Brad says, thoughts on next new drone? I'm not certain they'll upgrade the Mavic Air 2 without adding OcuSync. Not certain how they'll upgrade the Mavic Air 2 without adding OcuSync. Yeah, transmission is the biggest downfall of Mavic Air. I would agree with that. Transmission with the Mavic Air and the Mavic Mini, obviously two very different drones. Even though the Wi-Fi works, it's not necessarily, well, as we know, if we've flown a drone with OcuSync, once you've gone OcuSync, it's hard to use an inferior communications technology. And I mean, it's what's the word for it? I mean, it's Wi-Fi is fine, but it's just not as good. And I'm thinking with the Mavic Mini 2, or I'm sorry, the Mavic Air 2. Mavic Mini 2 is probably gonna be a while out, and maybe a Mavic Mini Pro, but the Mavic Air 2, I think there's some things they can do because they're, the Mavic Mini is their new small drone. So with the Mavic Air, they're not necessarily concerned about super small and super lightweight anymore. I think it's kind of the more affordable but higher end option than the Mavic Mini. I mean, the Mavic Mini is all about, tiny travel size, tiny travel weight. But I think the Mavic Air 2, I think what they could do without being ultra concerned about the size and the weight. I mean, obviously they're not going to morph it into something that it shouldn't be, but I think with the Mavic Air 2, I think there's opportunity for them to really put a really nice camera on it. And, I think for marketing purposes, I think what would really work well for the Mavic Air 2 would be, let's say hypothetically, let's say they just stick with Wi-Fi and they realize that, Wi-Fi is probably cheaper to implement. They realize that Wi-Fi is not going to command the price for the drone like they could charge for a Mavic 2 or a Mavic 3, but it's going to provide a better camera experience than the super small and super lightweight Mavic Mini. So what I think they could do with Mavic Air 2, with the Mavic Air 2, I think they could. It's hard to remember all these names and numbers, but I think with the Mavic Air 2, what they could do is provide. Don't necessarily focus on the transmission and all that, but just provide a modular camera option. Something that doesn't have the battery life, something that doesn't have the range of. That was the. I'm not going to say the wake word because if you have the devices too, that was the A word device that was telling me I had some notifications. But I think with the Mavic Air 2, I think the opportunity is there for them to release a modular camera option. So basically, it's going to target people that want something more serious, more capable than a Mavic Mini, but they don't necessarily need the ultra extended battery life. They don't need the ultra long range that something like a Mavic 2 or a Mavic 3 would provide. An equal camera experience to the upcoming Mavic 3 without the enhanced battery life, without the enhanced OcuSync communication system. But I think also with Mavic Air 2, there's the opportunity to add enhancements such as USB recharging. USB recharging capability for the Mavic Mini is a game changer. Being able to top it off in the field with a USB battery bank attached to solar panels is incredible. I mean, even not attached to solar panels is incredible because, in theory, what you can do with the Mavic Mini, you can pack very small and very lightweight, and don't even worry with taking extra batteries. Just recharge the one battery that's in the drone, and if you've got a solar battery bank, you can continue to recharge your solar battery bank. So in essence, you can have unlimited renewable energy in the field, and I mean that was a game changer. I mean that Mavic Mini brought to the table. So that's that's super exciting, and I think that what's the word for it? I think they've got to bridge that gap. DJI's defined the new lineup, and that new lineup is small and ultra lightweight Mavic Mini. In the middle, Mavic Air, professional drone, Mavic 2. So now it's time for them to create the professional version of the Mavic Mini. It's time for them to create a more refined, more capable version of the Mavic Air. And it's time for them to make an even more awesome Mavic 2, the upcoming Mavic 3. So, and I think there's, and they briefly brought the Phantom back. I guess they just wanted to sell some old parts. But, in reality, the Phantom is dead, the Inspire is dead. So those are your 3 drones. You got Mavic Mini, Mavic Air, and Mavic 2. So, let's see what DJI brings us. But the thing is that they don't have any competition right now. So to make them get up and say, hey, we need to sell some drones, or for them to call up their employees and be like, hey, stop being lazy, come in, work, innovate, make the consumers happy, make us more money, make yourself more money. They just don't have the push to do that because they have no competition, and it's a shame. It is a shame that DJI has no competition. So I think that, there's definitely going to be some cool developments here in 2020 from DJI, but how soon will those developments surface? Who knows? Especially again with the coronavirus. The coronavirus is all over China, and that's going to create problems. Brad says, thoughts on Alltel Evo 2 Pro 6K 1-inch sensor. I think it sounds gimmicky. I've seen it. It's one of those things. I go back with Alltel. I go back to the first drone that they were touting, and this was a drone they never released, but it was at CES, and they had this drone. It had modular camera option. It had a 360 camera option. It had, was it 360, and then a couple of other types of cameras. I think one of them was infrared or something. They had all these options, and they never brought it to the playing field. And in my opinion, the Alltel Evo has been lackluster at best. It just hasn't shaken things up, and it's a shame. And I know, with marketing and this, that, and the other, it's easy for a company to come out and really try to make things look good. And I acknowledge on paper, 6K sounds impressive, but what type of camera are we dealing with? Are we dealing with Sony products here? Are we dealing with some sort of really generic and poor quality? You can have, for example, with cameras, you could have a camera that's, as far as performance, you may get better results than a low-end 4K camera. Obviously, you're not going to get 3840 by 2160 resolution from 1080p. You're going to get 1024 by 768, but 1920 by 1080. Mine's gone. So I don't know. I want to be excited, and I want to be excited about other drones, but I just can't get excited because, look back, and I still can't think of that drone we were talking about earlier, the one that came out before the GoPro Karma that never made it, the one with a really good marketing campaign. That drone to me, if I could remember the name of it, but that drone to me was a prime example of something that was heavily pumped. They did have a good marketing campaign, but it was heavily pumped, and the product and the performance just didn't meet the pump, and it quickly fizzled. And I feel sorry for, I can't remember the name of that drone, but it was big. It was in all your big online retailers, and I think it was a situation. I think when they released it, they didn't have the gimbal readily available, and I think a lot of people were up in arms. No, it wasn't the Lily drone. It was. I'm gonna have to look this up. It was. Let's see. It's pretty bad. That's, even with that awesome marketing campaign, that's pretty bad. I can't even remember what the name of the drone was. This was a while back. It wasn't the Lily drone. Surely somebody out there that's watching knows. It was black, and it was geared towards. It was right before the GoPro Karma came out, and the false vibe that was created was that it was the GoPro drone. It was not the GoPro drone. It had some sort of. They had some sort of deal with GoPro to better integrate with the GoPro camera, but it was not the GoPro drone. Let's see, what's the name of it here? let's see. This is crazy. I can't even find this thing on, let's see. Pretty bad when you can't even find it on, let's see, on clearance. I'm trying to remember the GoPro Karmas. Those aren't even available. Oh gosh, what is this? It's driving me crazy. I can't find the name. I mean, it was in all the big retailers. 360. I think you're getting warmer. It was, but yeah, that's a good guess. Let's see. We will find it. The drone before the GoPro Karma that was touted as being a GoPro drone, but was not the drone. Was not the drone made by GoPro. It came out right before GoPro Karma. It's got to be on here somewhere. And it wasn't one of the. It wasn't a Hubson. It wasn't a. This is driving me crazy that I can't find this. Maybe there's like a drone. You know, this would be good to create like a. This would be a cool project to create like a from cradle to grave, starting with Phantom 1. Let's see. There's got to be a. You would think there would be. Let's see. It's going to drive me crazy until I find the name of this drone. The one that came out before GoPro Karma that wasn't made by GoPro. We got to figure out what that name was. Let's see. Yeah, I'm almost saying it starts with an L maybe. And it was not the Lily camera. But it was the drone before the GoPro Karma. It was not made by GoPro. And it was a complete failure. Their marketing campaign was good. They had a good little video with like apes running around. And they built this huge pump. And then, let's see, what was the name of that drone? It was not made by DJI. It was another 3DR. 3DR drone. That's what it was. 3DR. 3DR drone. 3DR Solo. That's what it was. Yeah, and you know the scary part is 3DR Solo was the drone. 3DR Solo, I think it was around 2015 or 2016 when it came out. And honestly, the thing looked good. It's so back to the question about, think about other drones other than DJI. 3DR Solo, which again made an impact because I remembered it. I could see it in my head, but I couldn't remember the name because it was such a failure. But that's a prime example of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about would-be DJI competitors. 3DR company that had the 3DR Solo, they had a great marketing campaign. They had a great design. The drone looked great. But it was one of those situations where, in my opinion, and again, I'm just calling it like I see it, being involved with drones for many years, but I took it as they were the victim of bad timing because they released this. They thought it was going to be the first true DJI competitor, which it could have been. It was a GoPro drone. It was not the GoPro drone, but it was marketed in a way to where it people perceived it as being the GoPro drone before the GoPro drone was announced or released. Because I remember watching Nick Woodman unveil the GoPro Karma. And this was before that, when the 3DR Solo was touted. So, you know, they had everything in line for them. And my perception was that because of the GoPro Karma's release, that then they really had to rush release of the 3DR Solo to the market. They didn't have enough units. They didn't have enough gimbals. People were getting a 3DR Solo that didn't have a gimbal. Who wanted a drone without a gimbal at that point in time? And it just, you know, unfortunately it failed. And I can only imagine how upset all of the developers were, how upset the marketing team must have been, because they gave it my perception is that they gave it an honest effort. But again, victim of circumstance. I mean, you know, they probably didn't know that GoPro was about to release the GoPro Karma, which failed. But on Wall Street and everywhere, the perception was that GoPro Karma was going to be the kill-all of drones. I mean, GoPro is the action camera brand. There's no arguing that. But they failed. Who would have thought GoPro would have failed with drones? And then the safety recall GoPro Karma got when it came out was just that was the nail in the coffin. So, you know, it's a mean and nasty space. Drones are. I mean, it's a mean and nasty space. If you're not DJI and you want to try to release something, you're probably going to fail. So that's what it's going to take. It's going to take, again, a Microsoft, Google that understands marketing. It's going to take a company like, and is not afraid of a reasonable amount of perceived hesitation for any of the big players to want to enter the drone game. And I don't know if that's because of the fear of potential overregulation. To them, that was money well spent because it put more eyes on their brand. Even if that drone completely failed to impress, that still put more eyes on their brand to purchase other products. It put more eyes on their brand, and the media are sharing their drone articles. So that's drawing more attention to not just their drones, but their other products. And if they fail, they can afford to lose potentially, welcome aboard from Langley, the CIA headquarters. That'd be a cool place. Well, probably, I don't know. Probably is cool. So, yeah, it's just it's weird. There's no other way to put it. It's just weird why we haven't seen anybody compete. And I think that if you go out and you dig and you research 3DR Solo and just look at, the history and how they, Brad says, currently just sold my Hero 5 Black and trying to get to sell other accessories in Hero plus LCD. Interesting. Very cool. Yeah, just to see how they failed, and that's just some good research if you're wanting to look at the history of drones and look at a prime example of failure that could have been a real winner. If I had a team of developers and I had the resources to assume the risk, I would release a drone. But again, I hesitate because, I'm an independent YouTuber and I don't have the budget to fuel something like that properly. So I know that that would be a bad business move for me to try to throw money at creating a drone. I mean, DJI dominates, and it's sickening. I mean, it really is. I mean, I love DJI drones, but it's sickening that they just totally control the space and the prices and everything. I mean, they do. So yeah, it's a mean and nasty place. The drone space is. So yeah, with that being said, I'm going to wrap this show up. Got a lot more live shows coming soon. I've still got to work on this bandwidth issue. I'm going to try to get a faster internet connection, but I've got the lighting and I've got everything in here like it needs to be. Again, if you haven't subscribed, be sure to do so and ring that bell icon when you do to be notified whenever I post another video. And feel free to support my channel You can check out my website if you're shopping for drones. You can also check me out on Patreon, patreon.com/IrixGuy, and support my channel there. Link within this video's description. Excuse me. Thanks for watching, and y'all have a good day. Hey y'all, IrixGuy here. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe, like, and share. It's viewers like you that enable my channel to continue to grow. Thank you. Hey y'all, IrixGuy here. If you enjoyed